Hi, y'all. My name is Aaron Williams, and I'm presenting the results of my first year doing a Master of Philosophy at QUT by the title you see on screen. It's still in an exploratory phase relevant to data collection and analysis, but I'll be commencing serious writing of thesis content within the month. Before I kick off, I just want to extend a huge thanks to my project supervisors, Brendan Keogh and Ben Nickel. Their guidance and advice has been seriously just an absolute lifeline, and I appreciate them so much. Cool. So Red Dead Redemption 2 is the topic of my thesis. Specifically, I took notice of contradictions in reception for the game surrounding its slower pace and unpleasant narrative, where one reviewer lauded a video game that is meditative, laconic, a slow burn, drawn out and unhurried, sometimes even morose. Another took umbrage with the play experience to facilitate such a narrative, highlighting that the game will punish you if you don't constantly strive to maintain the status quo for your character, but these systems rarely do much to reward you for handling them well. And it's that idea of a reward for work that I found so compelling, specifically the seeming disagreement on whether the work itself or playing the video game isn't reward enough. So that's what I'm going to be exploring through this thesis. So the primary research question is, how is player agency currently perceived, articulated, and valued among critical marketing and audience discourses in blockbuster video game cultures? And the secondary research questions to help me answer that will be, how have critical audience and marketing discourses identified and defined the role of the player in generating Red Dead Redemption 2's textual meaning? And how has the diversification of people who play video games contributed to discursive reevaluations of dominant gamer identity in video game cultures? Uh, so on the topic of methodology, I chose these specific theories on screen for what is otherwise, a classic discourse analysis, because I can clearly see from the outset that what I'm researching has something to say about the historical shifts in the recognized identities and cultural values of people who play video games. And in avenues such as these, game scholars like Adrian Shaw advocate the need to look at video games in culture rather than video games as culture. So when it comes to the specific topic of agency therein, broad critical discourse studies stress that while individuals may exercise discursive agency, this is done within the constraints imposed by social conventions, ideologies, and power relations. So it's just going to help me frame the results of the conversation much better. Um, Data sources are what you can see on the screen. Yes, I will indeed be going through all 6,764 user reviews of Red Dead Redemption 2. No, I haven't gone through all of them just yet. But yeah, when it comes to the processing of this data, I've used Vivo to capture and code everything gathered to identify emerging themes therein. And on that topic, some really interesting stuff has come out. Chores or chore-like actions is a fundamental underpinning of Red Dead Redemption 2's play, the strongest thematic thread that's emerged to date. The word chore alone has been used at least 262 times in the gathered data. Not all of these instances have been analyzed as yet, but of the 48 utterances analyzed to date, 38 speak of these chores in a negative way. A really memorable user review describes Red Dead Redemption 2 as a painfully slow-paced game with a 3-hour tutorial. It's realistic, but I want fun, not chores. An equally memorable critic review declares the game tiresome after the laborious multi-step processes of doing simple things like making coffee or grabbing guns from your horse. The remaining 10 analyzed utterances believe the complete opposite, usually and most compellingly for exactly the same reasons. A critic contends that tiny, almost trivial instances of subtle control like this subconsciously seep me into the world as Arthur, the protagonist, even more. And a user asserts that if a game goes as far in detail to make you brew coffee via campfire before drinking it, or getting your weapons from a horse's satchel, or literally watching its testicles shrink in cold weather, that this is game of the decade material. So this is something I'm looking to explore further, starting with theories around chores and chore-like activities in general, but also seeking more specific examinations of chores within video games. So the inconvenience of crime within Red Dead Redemption 2 is another very common topic of discourse. To date, there have been 42 noted instances of this topic, with vacillating perspectives similar to Chores on whether this is something that enhances or detracts a player's sense of agency within the experience. One user is very direct in stating, I already work all day long. I don't play to work more and get punished. I just want to have fun like people in Westworld. I find Westworld to be a really interesting comparison here, as that television show is about the ethical dilemmas faced when giving a user of a sandbox game complete agential freedom to act on all other non-player characters as they see fit. It seems as if there's a strong expectation within audience discourses around Red Dead Redemption 2 that a video game like this ought to permit and make easy a temporary transgression of play behavior to indulge violent and antisocial desires, with one critic drawing comparisons to the previous Red Dead Redemption title, noting a preference of getting to put nuns on train tracks while keeping up the howdy ma'am, nice guy act. So further research is to be done regarding theories of empowerment within video games. And the final theme that has emerged is health, or the play experience of dying of tuberculosis. Definitely appeared less frequently to date, though conversations surrounding it hold a similar intensity to the previous two. It's most interesting to the fact that discourses surrounding the eventual death of the player character to tuberculosis appears to inspire a deeper assessment of the earlier two themes of chores and crime specifically, and why they were presented through play in such a grim, bleak way. One user noting the latter part of the game completely changed my feelings about the storytelling in Red Dead Redemption 2 for the better. Meanwhile, a critic is deterred by the tens of hours devoted to playing the game in such a state, asserting that it feels a lot less like the dramatization of tuberculosis and a lot more like actually having tuberculosis. Here, the previously acknowledged attention to detail paid to the mundane and banal and restriction of possible actions to take within play is being paid to embodying someone dying of sickness. And this critic questions the worth of embodying what they describe as a futility simulator. So further research into embodiment will be conducted to resolve this theme further. The plan from here, taking some time to do a deep dive and really focus on reading some theory. So I know that I found something really compelling here, and I now need to go looking for existing theories and conversations around these topics so I can better justify my place within and contribution to the debates. That in mind, if anything here has jumped out at you as an interesting research avenue, I would massively appreciate hearing from you. Got a couple ideas, but could always do with more. Other than that, I'm going to continue searching for new threads of discourse within the data collected and continue the process of data collection itself. All reviews are gathered, comments on Twitter and YouTube using a data scraping API to come. And that's it. Thank you so much. This has been great. Thank you for the opportunity. And would love to hear any feedback, questions, or suggestions for further avenues of research. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.